Hello everyone, welcome to Sokra Academy. I'm Dr. Shweta Ajay Dwivedi. I am dentist by profession and today I'm teaching you all Hereditary and Evolution Part 2. As I've told you in the previous video that I had divided Hereditary and Evolution into two parts. So we have covered Hereditary in detail and today we are going to cover Evolution in detail. This chapter is in your class 10th Science and Technology Part 2 Chapter 1. Okay, hereditary and evolution. But in this today's video we are going to study only about evolution because in the previous video we had studied about hereditary. Now what is evolution? Now have you ever wondered, like, have you even if you have gone to some very places which are mythological places, there you might see there are a lot of chimps, or you can see lot of monkeys are present there, or you go to some zoo and you will see some chimpanzees are present there. Okay, now if you see their characteristic, they are very much like looks like very similar to human, except that there are few differences. Okay, like we do not have so much of hairs, our gait is very straight, they are little bend, they have four legs, we have two legs, like some differences are there. So what is this evolution? Evolution is when you are evolving from one single cell to multiple large cell. Okay. Now when scientists started studying, the human beings, or they started studying various different types of species around us, what they found out is that all few species, they have very similarities to each other. Few or mostly all of them have similarity to each other. So they started giving a lot of theory. In that theory, what they said, first there was only single organism in river. After that, this organism came into land and there were land animals. Then the land animals started evolving from each other, and at last they became like a human. So this process is called as evolution. Okay, evolution is a theory. Okay, theory meaning it is widely approved by the scientific community and heavily supported with evidence. It can be a fact. Okay, evolution is a theory, but majorly it is called as a theory. There are a lot of you can say scientific approach to prove this theory. There are a lot of evidences by which you can prove this theory of evolution, but still people call it theory. They do not call it a fact because not everything in evolution is being proved. So evolution describes when a group of organisms changes over time. As I've told you, describe when a group of organisms changes over time. This can occur over a long period of time or short period of time. For example, we have evolved from billions and billions and billions of years. Okay, initially there was nothing. There was this very small organism in river. In the river. From this small organism we came into land. Then we became, like a land animal. Then we became reptile. Reptiles are the animal that can stay both on the land and the water. Then we evolved. Then we became like another animals. Then we evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved. Now which is the most evolved species is human being. Then we became like humans. So initially there was small bacterial cell and it started evolving and it became, and today what we are is we are evolved creature. So this is what evolution is. Okay, evolution is the study is, or it describes how the group of organism has changed over time. Now theory of evolution. What does this theory of evolution said? As I have told you before, in the theory of evolution, people are saying that there was a big bang that happened. Now this is very famous. Like if you have interest in astrophysics, astrophysics is study of galaxies, stars, and when you study this astrophysics, every scientist, every physician who likes to study astrophysics have always used this word big bang at least tens or 20 times in their life. What is this big bang? What happened? What scientists think is that initially there was, you know one galaxy, only one galaxy was present, and this galaxy blowed. That means there was big bang that happened, and from this big bang small galaxies were made. What happened? initially there was only one galaxy, and because it broke down, or because there was a bang in that galaxy, and that is the Big Bang, because of that many small galaxies were made. And what is the name of a galaxy? The name of a galaxy is Milky Way. So Milky Way, in that galaxy there is a small planet called Earth. So there we are present. So they give this theory of evolution. First Big Bang happened, then our galaxy came into formation. In that galaxy, that there's a present of Earth, and this Earth was not habitable first because the temperature was too hot. Then over the time this temperature settled down. Then there was, Ice Age. You must have seen movie like Ice Age, animated movie. So when the temperature came down after the Big Bang, because Earth was very hot at that time, so there was no organism which was present, okay, according to this theory of evolution. Then after that the Ice Age came. In that Ice Age there was, only snow present in all over the Earth. After that the Earth started slowly cooling down. Then, then the period of dinosaurs came. You must have seen that, lot of dinosaurs were present. Then after that there was some asteroid that hit the Earth, and there was this big blow to the earth, because of which all the dinosaurs got extinct. And after that, slowly the life came into earth. This life came in the form of very small creature in sea, in the river, or in water. And after that it came onto the land. It started living on the land. Slowly the creature, the reptile came, who can stay on the land also, and who can stay in river also. Then slowly there was evolution. In that there were, the um, chimpanzees came. Then we started evolving from them, and today we are the most evolved creature. This is the entire theory of evolution that most of the scientists believe is true. And we have certain evidence also to prove this evolution theory, like I'm going to tell you in the ahead slides. This is There are many evidence to prove the evolution, but these are brief six evidences. There is morphological evidence. Morphological means the way they look. Morphology is the way a person look in the context to another person. Okay, that is morphology. Anatomical evidence, that means what is the anatomy, what are you made up of. Okay, vestigial organs, I will explain this in detail. Paleontological evidence, or paleontology, is a study of fossil. What it is, I will explain you ahead. What are the connecting links, and what are the embryological evidence? I will explain all of these evidences in detail. Now you have to remember, these are the 6 evidences to support the theory of evolution. Okay, so first we are going to study the morphological evidence of evolution. Morphological evidence, first point, when they say that the evolution is true, they say that there is always homologous structure. What is homologous structure? For example, here you see this is such a cute dog here, dog. Then here you have sheep, then you have fox here, and cat here. What is the similarity in this 4 picture? Is the position of eyes, nose, ears. Look at the position. How they are always perfect. Eyes is present in the place of eyes. Why does not it happen that nose is present up here and eyes is present down here somewhere? Why it has happened that the eyes is present in the proper position, the nose is present in the proper position, the mouth is present in the proper position, although all these four animals are different, but just look at the structure. The structure is same. It is same in human beings also. We have eyes in the place of eyes. It is not happened that nose has gone up or the eyes is present where the neck is. That is not happened. Okay, so what this morphological evidence is trying to say about evolution, that all of them have eyes in the place of eyes, nose in the same of nose, place of nose, ears in the place of ear. That means all of them have common ancestor from which all these 4 have evolved. What is this trying to say? Suppose this is one ancestor. Ancestor is, like your great ancestor from which you have evolved. Suppose this was an ancestor. Okay, from this ancestor there came dog, there came goat or sheep, sorry, there came fox, or there came cat. So what they're trying to say is all these 4 animal came from a common ancestor. but over the period of time they started changing, and that is why when this common ancestor, they came from common ancestor, but over the period of billions of years they evolved and became into four different animals. That is what this morphological evidence is saying. Now look at these leaves also. Here I have given the example. Look at the venation. What is venation? Venation is like how these leaves are divided. Can you see how this, we make a lot of diagrams also, na, like this, you know, the leaves are divided. Okay, this venation are present in all the leaves. Why it is like this? Have you ever imagined? It might happen, some plants, you know, the venations are not present at all, or you know, some very different variation are present. But venation is always present. Look at the shape. There is similarity in shapes also. Okay, there is similarity in the arrangement of the leaves also. How the leaves are arranged. Just look at the shape. Why maximum of the shape of the leaves is like this? Okay, that is because they have evolved from a common ancestors. Now look at the margin. This margin is entire margin. This is crenate margin. Just look at the border of this margin. But what they are trying to say is, even though the margin are different, but still the margin is present. That means they had the common ancestor from which they evolved. So that is a morphological evidence of evolution. That is similar body parts that reflect shared ancestry. The body parts are similar. Structure may be used for different purposes in different groups. Now, for example, the structures that are used by animals can be different, okay, but they have the same kind of structure. The use can be very different, but the same genes direct their development. What they're trying to say, there is a common ancestor through which this type of or this different types of organism or different types of plants have been evolved. Now this is the anatomical evidence. Okay, what is this anatomical evidence? We just saw the morphological evidence. That is, they have all similar kind of structures. That structure can be of different use, but they have similar structure. Similarly, they have similar anatomy. What is anatomy? Now this is the hand of a human. Okay, in human you have this upper bone which is called humerus. Then you have lower bone which has radius and ulna, and then you have this carpal and metacarpal. All these are bone of the fingers. Okay, this is a common basic structure of a hand of a human being. Now look at the hand of cat. Cat also has this upper bone. It also has middle bone. It also has peripheral bone. Similarly, look at these whales. What whale have? Whale have upper bone which is small. They have middle bone which is small. Like here, see, for for humans and for even cat, the upper bone and the middle bone is long. But for the whale, the upper bone and the middle bone is short, but the peripheral bone, look at the peripheral bone. Oh my God, it is so big. That is why, you know, you cannot get away from a whale. You have to be very careful. Just look at their bone. It is so long, so huge their bones are. So you have to be very careful. Even see at bat. Bat, look at the bone for bat here. This is the upper bone. This is the middle bone, and look at the peripheral bone. The fingers, they're so big. The fingers are so big for bat here. Okay, they have different structure. Just see, the structures are very different, but the arrangement of the bone, just look, all of the animals here, human, cat, whale or bat, all of them have humerus. Okay, all of them have middle bone, all of them have peripheral bone. So what we're trying to say is, even though the bones are very different in all the animal, but the arrangement in which they are kept is same. That means all of this animal have come from a single ancestor, or they have come from a single species from which the different type of species have evolved. This is the another evidence to support the evolution. After morphology, this is the anatomical evidence. Let us see the next evidence. Okay, this vestigial organ. This is one another very good example of evolution, because this is one of the major reason why many people believe that evolution truly exists, is because when we were evolving, okay, over the billions of years, what is present in our body right now that we do not use is third molar. What is third molar? It is the wisdom tooth. You can also say, like in Hindi we say अक्कल दाढ़ आ गई है. अक्कल दाढ़ means it is the एकदम पीछे का एकदम last teeth which is present in your mouth is called as अक्कल दाढ़ or third molar tooth. Do you use that tooth? Try to bite. When you're listening this video, just try to bite once. Are you using this teeth? No, we are not. Why? Because this teeth was only useful to our ancestor. Okay, that means to our Netherland man. What it is that I will explain you after that in the upcoming slide. But just remember that our ancestor used to use this third molar. Now we are not using it. So what we will see after 50 to 60 years in our upcoming generation, that this molar is gone. Okay, we will see this will happen because over the years what is happening, the size of the jaw is becoming less. I will show you in the upcoming slide, but just remember the size of the jaw. What is jaw? You know na, your lower bone or the chin bone, that part is called as jaw. The size of the jaw is becoming less. Because the size is becoming less, there is no place for this akkal dad to come out. That is the reason this is becoming vestigial. So what is vestigial? Vestigial organs are those organs that are no longer required by a particular animal. Okay, for us we do not need third molar because we do not use it, so it is a vestigial organ. But it is a proof that we have evolved because our ancestors used to use them, but we do not use it now, so that is why it became vestigial. So that is why this vestigial organs support evolution. Coccyx, what is this coccyx? Have you seen chimpanzees? Have you seen they have a tail? So that means our ancestors used to have tail, and this tail was attached to this bone, coccyx bone. Okay, but when we evolved, we did not use a lot of tail, and that is why that tail vanished from human being. And today what is being left is just this vestigial organ, coccyx. This is the last vertebra which is present in a human body. Okay, this vertebra is a vestigial organ because we do not use it. Ear muscle. Okay, do you really use this ear muscle? The pinna, no, we do not use it. What is the function of this ear muscle? Absolutely nothing other than girls, you know, used to wear, they use it to wear lot of big earrings. Even boys wear it these days. Other than that, there's no use. This is also vestigial organ. Okay. A vermiform appendix. You know, in the medical field, we make lot of fun of this organ appendix because there's this joke as it goes like, uh, you do not value my value is same as that of appendix, because doctors really do not care about appendix. If there is any problem in the appendix, doctors just say it, you know, remove this organ. So lot of appendixectomy means the removal of appendix. Lot of patient you will see that have undergone the removal of this organ because it is not really required by the body. Okay, another very beautiful example is ostrich. Ostrich, if you know that this is the fastest bird that is present on this land, the fastest bird, it runs really fast. And what is with this ostrich is, over the year it has stopped using its wing. It just runs. You know what happened at the time of the evolution? This bird ostrich, they found out that they can run very fast as compared to that they can fly. So they started using legs a lot and they stopped using their wings. Because of what? Because of that, in the after the evolution, after they evolved, their wings are very weak. Okay, as compared to even a crow, you know, a normal crow or normal sparrow, even compared to that, them, the ostrich wings are very weak. That is why now you can see that ostrich birds, if you go to, you know, some zoo or something, and if you see ostrich, they really do not fly because over the time of evolution their wings have become very weak because they have stopped using them. So what is vestigial organ is? Vestigial organ is all the organs that the animals have stopped using and now it is present like in the body, but it does not have any function, are the vestigial organs. Okay. The another is a paleontological evidence. What is paleontology? Paleontology is the study of fossil. um, it is, you know, actually a very difficult field. It is not as easy, and that is why you get a doctorate if you study paleontology. Paleontology is a study of fossil. Okay, what is a study of fossil? Now just imagine that you are taking in oxygen and you give outside carbon dioxide. Okay, you keep on doing this over the years, Now what happens is, here you have sun. What the sun emits? It emits neutron and proton. Okay, and in what is present in your atmosphere? In your atmosphere, there is presence of nitrogen and then there is presence of carbon. Okay, this nitrogen combines with the proton coming from the sun and it forms radioactive nitrogen. What it forms? Radioactive. See, radioactive compounds are the compounds that do not disintegrate. They will never disintegrate from the earth. Okay, your body will disintegrate, your bone will disintegrate, but the radioactive substances that is present on that bone or on your body or on the fossil, on the sand or on the soil, these radioactive substances are never going to be disintegrated. That is why this is the beauty, of science. What they found out is that when this radioactive nitrogen and this radioactive carbon, okay, this was normal carbon, but they combined with the neutron and proton that was coming from the sun. When they combined with carbon and nitrogen, we got two radioactive substances, that is carbon, and we got radioactive nitrogen. But in the study of paleontology, we only use radioactive carbon because that is uh, more easily, traceable means you can more easily study or more easily find that out. So if suppose this radioactive carbon, okay, this radioactive carbon is being taken by you, this is trees also take radioactive carbon, and animals also take radioactive carbon. How do animals take radioactive carbon? By suppose they're eating this grass. Okay, here they're eating any animals. Okay, by eating of this animal, that they are consuming the radioactive carbon here. Now once they die, okay, once they're dead, what will happen to tree are going to convert into wood, but these animals are going to convert into bones. Now bones, what is going to be present on this bones? This radioactive carbon, and this is not going to be disintegrated. It does not matter if that is billion-year old or 20,000 years old, 30,000 year old. Some amount of radioactive carbon is going to be present in that structure, in the bone or the wood of the plant. And by studying this carbon, we can find out how old this animal is. For example, just look at here. Okay, this carbon 14, it has three isotopes, C12, C13, and it has C14. But we study only C14 because, as I've told you before, that it is radioactive. Okay, carbon 14 has three isotopes, 12, 13 and 14, but only 14 is radioactive. That is why we study only 14, because it is not going to disintegrate from the earth. Okay, so this, suppose this is tiger. Okay, it is say say 17,190 years old. Now how we are going to find out it is that old? If suppose this animal is dead, if this animal is dead and it is, the bones are present, we take the bones of this animal, and if we find out that there is 100% of C14, that means the C14 100% it is present, that means the animal has just died. If we find out this C14, this radioactive C14 is present only 50%, that means this animal has died 507 years old or before. If we find out this carbon 14 or radioactive isotope is present only 25%, then we will say that this bone is 11,460 years old. And if we find out that it is only 12.5%, then we will say that this bone is 17,190 years old. So this process of studying the radioactive C14 is called as carbon dating. What it is called as carbon dating. This is one of the procedure that is done in paleontology, in the study of fossil. You take out fossil, you study radioactive isotopes, and you find out how old these bones are. That was the time the scientists were shocked, when they found out the bone, and they found out, oh my god, this bone must be around 30,000 years old, this bone must be around 50,000 years old. So they started questioning that, you know, our universe is so old, our earth is so old, because these animals are evolving, they are dying, but the carbon, the radioactive carbons, now we are studying. So there is one question that I'm going to ask you. I want you to find out the scientist who found out this technology and just changed everything about evolution, and it gave rise to a new field altogether, paleontology. There was this scientist who got a Nobel Prize who found out about this radioactive carbon, and by which we can do carbon dating and find out how old the fossils are. Okay, find out the name. This is your homework. Okay, now the connecting link. What is the connecting link in the evolution? Now connecting link is in the evolution is, this is one of the another theory of evolution, is suppose this peripatus. This is this animal called as a peripatus. Okay, this is Annelida, and here this is Arthropoda. Cockroaches are Arthropoda. Okay. So what it was find out when the scientists were studying evolution, they told, okay, we have morphological evidence, we have anatomical evidence, we have, you know, paleontological evidence to support the evolution. They said, but there might be some link na in the previous animal and in the next animal. There has to be some link to support the evolution. So they found this link in this beautiful example, that is the peripatus. Can you see this animal peripatus here? First we'll discuss about this animal. This peripatus has both the characteristic of Annelida and it has the characteristic of Arthropoda. In this animal classification, Annelida comes first. What is this annelid? Annelid has striped body. Can you see all these stripes which are present on the body of this organism? They have striped body, but they cannot carry out voluntary function. What are these function? These are function like open circulatory system, like we have in the human body. We have closed circulatory system. Okay, so this circulatory system where the blood is being transferred from one part to another, this circulatory system or this respiration by which the oxygen is taken from the nostril, this process is not present in this annelid. But all of this process is present in Arthropoda. So when the scientists were studying this animal peripatus, what they found out that it has the characteristic of annelid also, and it has the characteristic of Arthropoda also. Annelid, what was the characteristic of annelid? See the stripes body. You can see the stripe and you can see how long this body are, and you can see how many legs it has. Okay, so that means it has the characteristic of annelid, and it can do voluntarily functions also, like it can perform circulation also, it can perform respiration also. That means it has characteristic of Arthropoda. So scientists were shocked, like, you know, we have another very big explanation about evolution, is that there is annelid, there is peripatus, and then there is Arthropoda classification, because peripatus is a connecting link between the annelid and Arthropoda, because it has both the characteristic of annelid and it has the characteristic of Arthropoda. That means the peripatus is evolved from annelid and Arthropoda is evolved from annelid and peripatus. Now this is another embryological evidence to support the evolution. What is embryological evidence is? Embryo is the baby which is present in the womb of the mother. Now just see, just look at this embryo. This is the early embryo. This is the embryo of the fish. This is the embryo. Just look at the naming below here. Fish embryo, salamander, tortoise, chicken, human. Can you see the first embryo? All of the first embryos are same. After the first month, they start changing. Look at the embryos. And after the fully mature embryo, they're completely different. Just look at the human embryo. Okay, how it is first, then how it has become. You can see all the limbs are developing here, and you can see how this embryo is totally completely developed into a human being. So initially all the embryos were same. So again this supports the evidence of evolution, that initially all the animals have the same embryo, but later on we change it into different uh, different animal altogether. Now, two very most important theory about the evolution is, if you meet a paleontologist, if you happen to meet a paleontologist, they will always tell you about Darwin. Like Darwin's theory of evolution is very famous because he was the first scientist. He was the first scientist to give the concept of evolution. Okay, no one before him even thought about evolution. He was the first scientist to come up with the theory, and he said that, this evolution could happen. This is, we might have evolved from some species, because earlier what used to happen, there was lot of churches and temples, and they used to believe that the earth was created by God, in some, every religion has different findings, and they found out, and they used to say that, earth is created in 7 days. Some said that earth is created in, in 100 years. But Darwin said that earth is very, 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 very old, and it was very controversial at that time, because no one used to believe scientists at that time. Everyone were very, they thought that scientists are mad people. That is a true story actually. Okay, so Darwin was the first scientist who gave this theory of evolution, and he said that earth is very, very old. And after that came Lamarck. Lamarck modified Darwin's theory, and he gave some another theory. So first we will study in briefly about Darwin theory. Now Darwin, the scientist, you know, he's like uh, he's like a James Bond for paleontology, because you know how James Bond is for action movies, or for who he is. Similarly, that is how Darwin is for paleontologist. Everyone in paleontology, you will ask them, who is your favorite scientist? Everyone will come and say, it's Darwin, Darwin, Darwin. So what this scientist did was so great that he was studying the nature. He used to just look at the species, and he used to just think that, why does this happen that out of two people, only one people are surviving? For example, in the current situation, I will give you one very good example that fit in this situation, is that uh, so many people are getting affected by COVID-19 or coronavirus. But why is it that only few people are surviving and the other people are not surviving? Is because the people who are surviving are the fittest than the other people. So Darwin said that in the earth, only the people who are fit, or only people can survive who will fight, or there is going to be always a survival of the fittest. What it is going to be? There is always going to be survival of the fittest. This was his line. It is very famous line, the survival of the fittest. For example, if human beings over the year did not made lot of building, and we were still living in forest, and we did not protect ourselves from all the wild animals, then we would have been eaten up very easily by all the wild animals. That means who is fit there? The wild animals, because they can easily eat humans in the forest, right? Because we do not. Then we started slowly developing mechanism. We burnt fire, we build fire, we started, putting fire around the huts, seeing that the wild animals did not used to come close to the hut. So that way, slowly the human being started evolving. So that is the survival of the fittest. Now this is a very good example. Now look at this beak here. This is the example of the finches, natural selection of finches. He gave this theory of natural selection. What does he say? He said that the nature is going to select only those species who are going to fight and who are going to evolve with time. Only those species are going to be selected. For example, we have three examples here. 1, 2, and we have 3. What did he say? Just look at the example 1. Just look at how his beak are very big. Okay, his beaks are not big, but his beaks are very fat, and it takes a lot of space, due to which he cannot hunt properly. Okay, that is why he was having problem in hunting. That is why he could not fill his stomach properly, and this kind of creature, they died and they did not evolve. So the nature did not select this species. Now look at this species. They evolved, but your beak was very small as compared to, here the beak was fat. That is why they were having difficulty in catching the food. Here the beak was very small. That is why again they were having the difficulty in catching the fishes or the food. That is why even they could not make it to the evolution. But here what they did is that they evolved their beak into very long beaks, due to which what happened, they could easily catch the insect. Okay, because of which they survived, they could feel their stomach, they survived and they evolved. This is the natural selection theory which was given by Darwin. Darwin, what did he say? The nature selected this bird because it was fit to survive, because it could easily, it evolved its beak into long, it could easily catch the insect and it could move ahead. But what he said is that this other two bird will get extinct, only this will survive. This was the Darwin's theory. But what did Lamarck said? Lamarck had something different to say about the evolution as compared to Darwin. What did Darwin say? Darwin said that only the species who are going to be naturally fit are going to evolve. The other species are going to become extinct. Okay. He gave an but what did Lamarck said? Lamarck said no, that is not going to happen. What will happen is that suppose if a giraffe wants to eat the food from bigger plant, so what it will do, it will over the year keep on stretching its neck up, due to which what will happen, when it will evolve, it will have neck which is very stretched. Okay, so eventually you are going to have giraffe whose neck are very stretched. Okay, but you will also have giraffe whose necks are small. So he said the organism, they're not going to become extinct, but rather they will evolve. He gave an example of blacksmith. What he said, blacksmith, you know, they make various instrument out of iron and steel. You said if you go to a blacksmith and if you study their arm, their muscles are very strong. Why? Because they're using lot of hammer, in day and out they're using hammer, because of which their muscles become very strong. So that is one point of evolution. So you will see that the children also have the muscles strong, then their children also have the muscles strong. So that example he gave. And this giraffe neck longer from stretching is the example of Lamarck's theory of evolution. So what is the difference between Darwin and Lamarck? What did Lamarck said? Lamarck said that over the year, this giraffe will stretch his neck slowly, and it is going to evolve. Can you see how how it is evolving? See, slowly, the neck is becoming longer. But what does Darwin say? Darwin say that out of all the three, only those who are going to get selected whose neck is longer. Okay, so that is a basic difference. Lamarck said that over the time the neck will become longer, and Darwin said that, you know, only those who are going to survive whose neck is longer, other will get extinct. Lamarck said that no species are going to get extinct, they are just going to evolve. That is the main difference between Darwin and Lamarck theory. Okay, now we will see about the evolution of humans. So this was a common ancestor. Can you see how we had four legs before? But over the time, we started walking on two legs, due to which the other limbs we started using these limbs as hand. Then there is Australopithecus. Then there was 1470 man. Just I want you to see the cranial size here. Can you see the cranial size is the size of the head? Just look at the size of the head, how big it is. Look at the size of the head. Eventually, we have come across when the size of the head has become less and the size of the brain has become bigger. Initially, what used to happen when we were evolving, our head size was very big, but the brain inside was very small, due to which, you know, the IQ power or the intelligence power of our ancestors was less as compared to how we are right now. Okay, then just look at the stature here. Stature, you see how their body are bent like this. Okay, just see how this body is eventually becoming straight. Slowly and slowly our bodies are becoming straight. Just look at this straight body, how the bodies are becoming straight. Then after that you have the hip joint here. Just look at the joint of the hip, how broad it was, and after that it became narrower. Now we have very close similarities to Neanderthal man. We have very strong similarity to Neanderthal man. Okay, Homo erectus, it is called Homo erectus because their body became erect completely. Then we have Homo sapiens who evolved from the Homo erectus. Then we have Neanderthal man. We have very strong similarity between the Neanderthal. We compare ourselves, that is we are Homo sapiens sapien. Human beings are called as Homo sapiens sapien. We compare ourselves to Neanderthal man. is a comparison. Now this is a Neanderthal man here, and here you have Homo sapien. Okay, now just look how we used to have a long clavicle. Clavicle is the shoulder bone here. Just look first here. Yeah, ancestors used to have long bone, and here we have short shoulder bone. Why? Because we do not eventually need to do a lot of hunting, so our shoulder bone became small. Initially we used to have wide scapula, now we had small scapula. There was large shoulder joint, now the shoulder joint is also small. Okay, just look at the hip joint, how it is rotated outwards, and here it is rotated inwards. Okay, hands with strong grip and wide fingerprints. Okay, now we have the grip which is smaller because we are not doing a lot of hunting or the forest work like how Neanderthal people used to do. So we have evolved a lot from them. So our closest ancestor, if you see, are the Neanderthal man. If anyone asks you which are your closest ancestors, just tell them it is Neanderthal man in the evolution, of course. Okay. This is a brief theory of evolution that I've told you before, how there's a Lamarck theory, then how there is a Darwin's theory, then fossil evidence in paleontology, carbon dating. Then I told you about the anatomical evidence. Then there was vestigial structure. Okay, then I told you about the phylogenetic three other morphological evidences are also there. Okay, the molecular biology. All of this is one of the chart of the summary of that I have covered. So to summarize what we saw in detail, we saw what evolution is, what are various theories of evolution, who were Darwin and Lamarck, and how the Homo sapiens evolved themselves over the years. Thank you so much.